Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it is time for my review of the newest EP from Coldplay. This one is called Kaleidoscope. Seriously, if you don't know Coldplay by this point, I really don't know what to say to you. Not only have I myself reviewed their music many a time, but simply said, Coldplay is one of the biggest rock bands in the world, and definitely one of the longest lasting. And in me saying longest lasting, that does hold a little bit of a double meaning. Coldplay has had at least one hit song on every single studio record they've had, from Parachutes on. Also, the band simply hasn't had a lineup change since their formation in the late 90s. These guys have been releasing music together, and just the four of them, for roughly 20 years now. I have so much respect and love for these guys. Coldplay is, and probably always will be, one of my favorite bands, probably because they just consistently seem to release good music. I haven't straight up disliked any project they've put out so far. And if you get where I'm going with this, I'm kind of trying to make reference to the fact that their very poppy final studio album, A Head Full of Dreams, was honestly my least favorite album that they've ever done. Coming off of the absolute roller coaster of emotions that was Ghost Stories in 2014, A Head Full of Dreams just didn't really have the same effect on me. Now, when it comes to the topic of Kaleidoscope, which is meant to be this accompanying EP to the A Head Full of Dreams album, you know, Coldplay is no stranger to doing these side EPs to pair well with their albums. In fact, I think they've done it for every single studio album, maybe with the exception to the Parachutes album. But otherwise, I think they have done that for every studio album, probably the most famous of those being the Prospects March EP, which was kind of the B-side to the Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends album. The thing about these EPs traditionally, though, is that they tend to really reflect the themes of the albums that they B-side. Definitely thought that was the case with Prospects March. I also really liked the A Sky Full of Stars EP they put out to accompany Ghost Stories. This EP, though, this EP is like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It seems like Coldplay's being tugged in so many different directions. They have no idea what they're going for with this thing. And maybe Coldplay was kind of trying to go for that with the release of this EP. I remembered surrounding the release of the Head Full of Dreams album, the band had talked about really wanting to make the album sound like the end of something. And this EP honestly feels more like it's toward that concept than the actual Head Full of Dreams album was. That one was just like straight up more poppy than anything they had ever done before. This EP has just like such a strange mix of songs that I never would have expected going into this thing. Honestly, I wasn't really strongly looking forward to this EP because I thought it would be so reflective of A Head Full of Dreams, and luckily I was wrong. But honestly, that makes this EP so hard to get through as a listener just because there's really that lack of cohesion. In fact, I probably think this is Coldplay's least cohesive project they've ever put together. Going straight from songs like All I Can Think About Is You, which honestly sounds to me like it could have come out of the A Rush of Blood to the Head Coldplay era, with its really like slow building rock beat and then it's really like hard hitting piano chords a ways into the track, and then that going into a much more contemporary collaboration with Big Sean, Miracle, Someone Special. Like, you could not have put more opposite sounding Coldplay songs next to each other on an EP. It's just so abrupt. And I would like to say that I do absolutely love this EP just because of how much I feel like Coldplay is kind of looking back towards their A Rush of Blood to the Head days, but that's not really, you can't really call it a central theme when there are songs like Something Just Like This and Miracles on this EP that are so far away from that era of Coldplay. It's just a really scattered mess. And don't get my thoughts wrong in me saying this. I don't think individually any of the songs on this EP really are bad, but honestly there's only a couple of them that super stood out to me. Honestly, this EP, just because of the way it's tearing me between wanting to love it and hate it and the different directions Coldplay is trying to go, it ends up landing in a pretty average spot for me. The best song on this EP, though, by far, the only one that really impressed me on every field of play, was the song Aliens, which to me at least is astounding in terms of its lyrics, its production, its structure, its instrumentation. I'm personally a very big fan of the political Coldplay. In fact, one of my all-time favorite songs by them has to be Politic from their A Rush of Blood to the Head album. That song was written after the events of 9/11, obviously a very powerful song with a very powerful message. And Coldplay gets political once again with Aliens, fittingly talking about immigration, which has obviously been a very hot button issue issue in both America and Europe, with Donald Trump taking presidency and all these terrorist attacks happening in Europe as a result of immigration. This song, at least for me, made for the only really emotional and thought-provoking cut on the EP. Everything else I was a little about. Not to mention the song's immersive textures and absolutely stunning production by Brian Eno. The song is also written in 5/4. I think this is the first time Coldplay has ever tried that, and it worked very well in my opinion. One of the better 5/4 tracks I've seen in a long time. But while we're on the topic of lyricism, let's hop back to some of the EP's most dull moments. I made it pretty clear in my track review of Something Just Like This that I really hated the lyrics. In fact, I think it's probably the cheesiest song that Coldplay has ever put together, and of course you can probably thank that to the fact that it's a Chainsmokers collaboration. But on this EP, the Big Sean collaboration, Miracles, Someone Special, has got to be like the second most cheesy bunch of lyrics Coldplay has ever put together. Oh, my father told me to never give up and just be who I want to be in life. But you're hearing this coming from one of the biggest names in rap, as well as one of the biggest rock groups on the planet, and I just honestly can't take it seriously. It's so hard to get motivated from this thing. It honestly feels like just this, like one of those cheesy motivational posters you find in an office or something. Like, it feels really forced to me. And while I do really like how Big Sean's voice sounds with the beat of this song, man, his verse was just incredibly weak. Talking about going to college, not being able to afford it, and then dropping out to pursue music, and apparently to become what he thinks of himself as the Muhammad Ali of music, which honestly is kind of laughable. So yeah, when it comes to new content on this EP, that song is probably the worst, but if we're talking about stuff that's already been released, good lord, Something Just Like This Tokyo remix. It doesn't make sense. It's not even a remix. It's nothing close to a remix. It's literally just a live version of Something Just Like This with very, very little change from the original. I would have preferred just about anything to be in this track's place on the EP. I would have preferred the original mix, really any of the remixes from the remix EP, some kind of acoustic mix or Chainsmokers VIP where they replace all the synths and everything with more rocky sounding instrumentation. I think that would have been cool, but we don't get that. We get this just absolutely lame live version of the song, and I don't understand its placement. I don't get it at all. On the other hand, the track that follows it, Hypnotized, ain't that bad. I thought the beginning of the track was very magical. I really liked its really soft tones and its kind of fluttering piano keys. When it comes to the beat kicking in, this definitely isn't the most exciting cut on the EP, but it's definitely a better cut than Something Just Like This and Miracles. So yeah, this EP just has a really weird kind of distribution to it, with an absolutely amazing track in the center, decent tracks at the beginning and the end, and kind of subpar tracks otherwise. I definitely don't think this is Coldplay's worst project. In fact, I probably prefer it generally over the Head Full of Dreams LP. In fact, I've probably listened to this EP more times since its release than that album. But no, this EP isn't great, and it definitely doesn't do its job of really trying to be this B-sides project to A Head Full of Dreams. And even though I probably do prefer this EP over what we would have gotten if they would have tried to kind of remake the sound of that album, just because I didn't like it so much, this EP just ends up being really weird. Like, it's a weird EP straight up, and it, like I've already mentioned in this review, it's probably their least cohesive project together, and these songs do not work at all in harmony together. I probably prefer this just listening to these songs individually, and the only song I can really see myself coming back to regularly is Aliens. So I am feeling a light 6 out of 10 for Kaleidoscope. I hope my thoughts make sense, and if they don't, feel free to rage down in the comments section below, although I hope you don't. Please don't. As always though, I have the Spotify link down in the description if you guys want to check this one out for yourselves. Like I said, there are a couple tracks I definitely recommend, a couple really weird ones, whatever. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'm Landon Remixes, and I'll catch you later. Peace.